They brought her in, wrapped in silver bands pulsing with violet light. Her limbs were still, her gaze blank, her body shaped like a humanoid. But her skin glowed faintly, like heat seen from a distance, and I was told she was telepathic, sensitive. Locked down for study and interaction control. I was told she would not respond to anything I did or said, that her mind was too far gone, that her thoughts were locked behind layers of trauma and exile. I nodded and I obeyed, and I sat in the chamber across from her, reading files and BIOS and telemetry and brainwave charts. But I kept looking up, and each time I looked up, I wondered what it would feel like to touch that glow, to run a hand along her cheek, and I thought it once, and her eyes widened only slightly, but I saw it, and I knew something had changed. And then I thought about that moment again, and this time her breath caught sharp, like the first time you fall into cold water. And the others did not notice, but I did, and that was the beginning. They kept her in the chamber, always lit, always observed. They believed she was blank. But I knew better now. I tested it softly, gently, thinking only about her hair, about what it would feel like to cradle her head in my lap, on soft grass under a night sky. Not like this place. Not like sterile lights and humming walls. And the sound she made again was quiet, but real. And when I looked up, she was staring at me, no longer blank, but alert, watching. And I thought I was losing my mind. But then I thought something I did not mean to. I thought about what it would be like to kiss her, if she could feel what I feel, and her whole body twitched like the gasp had stolen the strength from her limbs, and alarms blared and scientists ran in. But I was already sitting still, already, watching as her gaze sought mine again, desperate, like she could not unhear the things I was thinking. And I should have stopped then. But I did not. I thought about her all night, about how her hands looked too delicate to be strong, about how her lips had a curve that defied biology, and how her silence was more thunderous than sound. And when I returned the next morning, her eyes locked on mine, and she exhaled like the air inside her had finally broken free. They separated us after that. They isolated me, gave me different assignments, warned me about emotional imprinting as if I were the dangerous one, as if I were the experiment. But she was the one they caged. And when I dreamed, I still dreamed of her. And sometimes I would wake up and feel a heat in the air that should not be there. And I knew she could still feel me. Somewhere across this facility, she was listening. And I could not stop thinking about her. The more they kept us apart, the louder my thoughts became, until I started writing them down, not for memory, not for therapy, but because if I could not say them and could not think them without punishment, then I would at least record them. And I knew she would know. Somehow I knew. And then came the night when the lights flickered and systems failed, and I felt it like a tremor in my chest, her presence, raw and wild and unbound. And she was in my mind, not asking, not whispering, but breathing my name into the deepest part of thought. And I knew that something had changed again, something they could no longer control. The breach was not physical, no doors blown open, no walls broken, no bodies hurt, but every telepathic sensor in the sector spiked like a sunspot, like a planetary scream. And the truth was simple, she was no longer locked away. And when I was brought into the main observation wing and saw her standing free, the silver bands hanging melted from her wrists, I thought one thing. And that thought was love. Not fear, science, but love. And she gasped again, and this time her eyes filled with a light I had never seen, not even in stars. And when she stepped toward me, the other scientists tried to stop her, but their minds collapsed, their knees buckled, and their mouths filled with silence as her will passed over them like a wave. And she stood before me, trembling from every thought I had ever had about her, because she had seen them all, lived them all, felt them all. And she lifted her hand toward my face, not to harm, not to command, but to know. And when her fingers brushed my temple, I felt everything she had buried, every exile, every pain, every silence. And I showed her what it meant to be held without fear, even if only in thought. They tried to contain it again, to frame it as contamination, as neural instability, as dangerous overexposure, but they could not explain the way she glowed now, just with light, but with something deeper, something older than their tech, something like hope given shape. And I was told I would be reassigned to Earth, but when I boarded the shuttle, she was already there, waiting, silent, strong, watching, and I knew then that nothing would stop us. And when I thought about holding her again, her knees went weak, and I caught her, and she smiled not with her lips, but with her whole self, and we fled together, not to hide, but to escape the framework that caged us, and for a time we lived in the quiet zones of the starward belts, alone, but never alone, her mind always with mine, always knowing, always gasping each time I let myself imagine what forever would feel like, wrapped in her glow and her breath and her need, and her name that I still could not speak, because it was not made for sound, only for thought. Now, the galaxy hunts for her, not to destroy, not yet, but to reclaim. Because they have realized what she is, not a prison, not a weapon, but a key, a bridge between minds too vast to comprehend. And I am still thinking of her as I write this, knowing she feels every word, knowing her breath shortens as I remember the curve of her spine, the tremble of her thoughts, the way her hands found mine in sleep. And I will not stop. I cannot stop, because each time I think about her, she grows stronger, more real, more here than ever. And though I do not know how long we have, or what will become of this world that fears what we have, I know that the only true freedom she ever had was the first time she gasped from something I dared to imagine. And I will never stop imagining her. I will never stop thinking, because with every thought she becomes more alive, and more mine, and more free.